people, sometimes they'll come up to me and say, I don't always agree with you, but you stick to your guns and you explain it. And I think that's really important, is to have a kind of internal integrity.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Chat with Nick. And today we're here with John Mirisch, and he's the current council member and 3-time mayor of Beverly Hills. We're going to find out about his experiences that led him to city governance. How are you doing, John?
Good, and thank you so much for having me, May.
I know that you love Jollibee.
How can you tell?
I know.
I do love Jollibee, that's
What's
true.
your favorite dish in Jollibee?
Well, I mean, you know, when you go to Jollibee, you got to have the Chicken Joy. It's and I actually like the spicy Chicken Joy, so that's a favorite. It's an occasional treat, and we're lucky that we have Jollibee in the Los Angeles area.
You would have to travel from Beverly Hills to Beverly Boulevard.
I do, and you know what? Sometimes we'll go to Disney Hall to a concert or to the opera or to a Dodger game, and it's very conveniently on the way. And in fact, I've been with my fiance Yamani to Filipino Heritage Day at Dodger Stadium, and we stopped by Jollibee, got a bucket of Chicken Joy, and took it into the stadium. And there were other people there, Filipinos, who said, "Do they sell Chicken Joy at Dodger Stadium?" And I said, sorry, we picked it up. But they thought that was genius. So, yeah, Jollibee's always a nice treat.
Speaking of paths, how did you find out you were different, and how did that shape your path?
Different? Well, I think everybody is unique in their own ways. And the trick is staying true to yourself, true to what's important to you, to your values and all of that. And I don't know. I think growing up, I mentioned that I like opera and classical music. That was sort of something that was out of the ordinary for my family. It's not like I come from a family of musicians or of opera lovers or of classical music lovers. People just discover things that they like, and sports, but that is something that my family loves as well. And you just do what floats your boat, so to speak. And I think we're all unique in our individual ways, and it's just finding what it is that makes us unique and allowing that to flourish.
Have you always been a resident of LA?
So I was actually, I was born in Hollywood. It's the Scientology building now, it's Cedars of Lebanon, which is now Cedar Sinai, where my son was born. I grew up there, went to Beverly Hills schools for 13 years. And but then I lived abroad for almost 20 years. I lived in Europe, I lived in Germany, I lived in Austria, and most of the time I spent in Sweden. So I still maintain those connections. I had Swedish passport as well. But then when I moved back, it was for work. I moved back, I lived in Santa Monica for a year, but then moved back to Beverly Hills. So my entire time in Southern California has been in my hometown of Beverly Hills.
Let's go back to your childhood. Back then, the rest of LA was different, not like how it is now. What was that like when you were growing up in LA?
Well, Beverly Hills has also changed, and so has LA, of course. A few things that I've noted is that we used to be able to walk or ride our bikes to school. You couldn't do that today. I mean, in LA and in Beverly Hills, traffic has gotten a lot worse, and people are more aggressive. I seem to recall, maybe this is just the rosy-colored visions of memory, that when I was learning to drive and when I drove before I moved away, that people were very respectful and they were considerate, that they would let you in and they wouldn't cut you off. And of course, that's all changed now. People have become so aggressive, and that may be something that's a reflection of the larger society in general as well. I think also growing up that just the region in general did not have the homelessness problem that we have now. Just driving to downtown on Wilshire Boulevard or whatever, it's just horrific that you see that there's so many people who are forced to live in tents or on the streets, and that just shouldn't be the case.
As a child, have you always been into city governance or student council? Were you part of student government when you were growing up?
Yeah, not at all. I have friends who were. One of my friends who was class president is now the district attorney of LA County, Nathan Hochman. He's my oldest friend. I've known him since kindergarten. He did that. I was more into journalism. I was the editor of my high school newspaper. I wrote a column for it. I was also in forensics and debate and public speaking, I guess it was a class. My debate partner, ironically, was Nathan Hochman. And so I was not necessarily or at all involved in city government. It was never my ambition to get elected to anything. And that sort of developed from when I moved back from Sweden to first Santa Monica, but then Beverly Hills. There were a lot of things happening that I did not really like. And so, as I said, my background was in journalism, and I started a blog. And I guess a lot of people started to read it. At some point, it was very critical of the things that were going on. And a friend of mine said, hey, listen, instead of just writing about it, why don't you step up and do something? Why don't you maybe run for office? And I'd never considered that before, but I thought, sure, why not? It was a long shot to get elected, but even if I don't, I tried to step up and did my best. And even though I'm from Beverly Hills, I'd lived away for a long time, and so I won that election. I got elected, and that was in 2009, and have been serving ever since. And of course, that has been almost like a PhD in local government, which is everything from land use and urban planning to public safety, which is, of course, very important for any local government, to all sorts of other things. And but it was never somehow as a child, oh, I'd like to be president or mayor or anything. Never even thought about being in elected office. Now I joke that maybe after I retire from the Beverly Hills City Council, I'll move to Sweden and get elected there, or maybe even move to the Philippines and do something.
You mentioned Sweden several times. What led you to live in Sweden?
It was just work. I was doing film distribution, and I worked for 20th Century Fox. This was after I graduated from college, and I was like a trainee, and they were sending me around to a few different places to learn the business. And I was going to be in Sweden for maybe 4 months, 5 months, and for whatever reason, they sent me there in the summer. And so I remember taking the train up there and coming out through the tunnel and seeing Stockholm, and it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And I wasn't disappointed by living there. I loved it, and I had the opportunity to come back for Fox as a home office representative a couple of years later. And then after I was in Austria for 5 years, I was the general manager for United International Pictures in Austria. They gave me the opportunity to go back and run the office in Sweden, and it was wonderful. It was like a homecoming, and I still have a little place in Sweden, have a lot of friends there, and I consider myself lucky to have two homes.
What is it like living in Sweden and Austria compared to California?
Well, of course, you've got the weather, and so for me, the cold wasn't as big of a problem. I had gone to college back east, so I was kind of used to the cold. The one thing that takes getting used to in Sweden is the darkness. This time of year, up until the end of December, in Stockholm, it gets dark at like 2:30 or something, and it actually causes, there are afflictions that people have there from a light deprivation, and I think it's called seasonal affectation disorder, something like that, SAD. I didn't really have that, but I'll tell you, there were sort of strategies to get through it. The holiday season is a lot of fun in Sweden. There are a lot of lights and Christmas, and I'm Jewish, but I love the Christmas traditions in Sweden. A lot of it is food. There is something called like a smorgasbord, a Christmas smorgasbord, and that's a lot of fun. They actually have it here at IKEA, so we're going to try that here, and we've done it, and makes me a little less homesick for Sweden, the taste of it. And so that gets you through December, but by January it's still dark, in February, until you go to daylight savings time, it's still a difficult thing. So what I did, like what a lot of Swedes do, is we try and strategically plan a vacation to somewhere light, like Thailand or something like that, maybe in February, and then you get back and it's just a couple weeks, and then summer in Sweden. So if it's dark out most of the day in in Sweden in the winter, it's light out most of the day in the summer. And the light has this amazing quality where you think that people and nature are just bathed in light. And so summertime in Sweden is magical.
I wish I could go there someday.
Please.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great place. Stockholm is a great city. There's a lot to see. But you also want to get out to the Swedish countryside, which is beautiful. And the archipelago. Stockholm is, is sort of half brackish water and half fresh water. And so it's a very unique place. And the archipelago in Sweden is it's wonderful.
Living in Sweden, what challenges did you see as far as citizens? What challenges do they face every day?
The light and the weather. But Swedes are used to the weather. They have an expression which rhymes in Swedish. There's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothing. That's what they say. I found that, for me as first someone who was an immigrant, you could say, I tried immediately. I made a decision to try and learn the Swedish language. You could live in Sweden speaking English forever. You don't need a word of Swedish. Most people speak English there. You could get by. But I felt if you really want to appreciate the culture, if you want to be a part of it, you need to learn the language. And so I was very meticulous about learning the language. And then, of course, the difficulty is, because all the Swedes speak English, it's sort of embarrassing. I'm trying to speak broken Swedish. But I said to all of the people I was working with, listen, hey, I want to learn the language. Please, I know you speak better English than I speak Swedish. Please speak to me in Swedish. That's the way I'm going to learn the language. And except for one guy, everyone did it. And so they were very generous, very nice. I find that there's positive and negative things about Sweden. I think in America that we're more of kind of rugged individualists and we honor the individual. But I think what we're missing here is the sort of collective community sense that you have in Sweden, that we're all in it together and that we have a responsibility for each other. Mm-hmm. And that's what got Swedes through winters and famines and a lot of things. And we could have a longer discussion about maybe how we could blend the American side of things with the Swedish. But I for the most part, I think it's a wonderful place. And eventually, when I retire, I could certainly imagine spending several months a year there, especially the summer, which is just as said, it's a wonderful time. Swedish midsummer celebration is also, I use this word a lot when it comes to Sweden, but it's magical.
Speaking of community and having a diverse set of people living here in LA, where we have several different languages as compared to Sweden, how does the city of Beverly Hills compare with the rest of LA? You said earlier that the demographics have changed. A lot of things have changed in LA and within Beverly Hills.
Well, the demographics haven't changed so much in Beverly Hills as, for example, development, which, it's about money, and developers have a lot of sway in Sacramento, and the state has passed a lot of laws, not just impacting Beverly Hills, that basically take away urban planning from local communities, and their excuse is housing, and it's pardon my French, but it's a load of bullshit. And so we've seen physical issues in the city and other cities as well. And that's been a problem. Beverly Hills has always kind of felt like, on its best days, like a small community. Like we say Mayberry RFD. That was something from the Andy Griffith show back in the, 60s, where it's a small community where everybody knows everyone. And on our best days, we're like small town America. On our worst days, as a friend of mine used to say, Beverly Hills can be like Peyton Place in an Ibsen play. But I think that's the case with most cities. I will say that you're right, compared to Sweden, which has its own issues now. Los Angeles and America in general has always been a melting pot, or as Alex Haley, the author of Roots, used to say, a salad bowl, where you have many ingredients and each ingredient serves to enhance the flavor of the salad. That's the one side of it. The other side is the motto, what used to be the motto of America before it was In God We Trust, which is E pluribus unum, out of many one. So we should maintain our individuality from our cultures, from our heritage, but we should also be one people in that we're Americans. And so, as you know, there are, and you have this in other cities, but certainly in LA, you've got Koreatown, you've got historic Filipino town, you've got Chinatown, you've got a huge Latino influence, which isn't just Mexican. There's Central America, and Beverly Hills is one of the few Jewish majority cities outside of Israel, and that's something that growing up there, it always felt like we weren't in a minority. And that was something very special because sadly we see with the rise of anti-Semitism now, which has taken on tsunami-like proportions, that Jews have to, in some cases, be very cautious and are afraid. We had an incident in Los Angeles a few years ago, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, in the Fairfax area, which is just outside of Beverly Hills. There are a lot of Jewish people there. It's traditionally been a Jewish area where there were hate crimes against Jews. And I think it was the sheriff's department that warned and said, well, if you're Jewish, you may want to not wear your kippah, your yarmulke, the Jewish head covering. You may not want to wear your Star of David out. You may want to hide it. You may want to wear a ball cap. And that was the time where I grew up Reform. I didn't grow up wearing a kippah. I didn't grow up kosher or Shomer Shabbat, meaning following strictly Shabbat. I still don't. But at that point, to me, I said, I'm Jewish. I'm proud of it. I don't want to hide behind my skin color. I feel the best way to meet anti-Semitism and Jew hatred and racism against Jews is through Jewish pride. And so that's when I actually started wearing a kippah and being even more openly Jewish, if you will. And certainly it's led me to value our traditions even more. But that shouldn't happen in a community as diverse as Los Angeles has been. And so if it can happen here, it can, and it does happen anywhere and everywhere. And so in addition to my work on the city council, I'm the chief policy officer of a group called the Israeli American Civic Action Network, ICANN. And one of our goals is to fight anti-Semitism wherever it happens, including on campuses. But we see there is a lot of extremism, sadly, at the local government level, and that's something that we're working on combating as well.
When you were blogging, coming back from Sweden, was that one of the issues that you were writing about?
It actually wasn't at the time. I mean, there are waves of it. It didn't feel as current at the time. It really feels now like when you see a rise in anti-Jewish hate crimes and that sort of thing, it feels like it's gotten as bad as it ever has in my memory, I can say, certainly growing up here, and I may not have been aware of everything. Most of the things that I was blogging about at the time had to do with our school district. I felt that when I went there, we were what was known as a lighthouse district. You wouldn't send your kids to private school because the Beverly Hills schools were almost as good as it could be. People moved into the city because of the schools. And that had changed, and so that was one of the issues. But one of the main issues was overdevelopment, and this was before the state adopted a lot of the laws that preempt cities from doing their own urban planning. And again, we see this is one of the things in America sort of versus Sweden, that it's all about the money, and it was then too. And so people were willing to sell out the community and what made the community special for money. And overdevelopment was a big issue for me then, and I wrote a lot about that. And also I felt that the city, in making deals with developers, which you sometimes do, was getting the short end of the stick. And certainly as an elected official now, I've always, it's always been my intention to ensure that the city, meaning the residents and the community, get a fair shake when it comes to deals with developers. And I think actually I have a pretty good track record.
Do you think it's because of the overflow of people coming into the city of Beverly Hills? That's why there's a lot of development that you have to control a little bit?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's that. I just think people, Beverly Hills, it's interesting, is more diverse than you would think. People have this image of Beverly Hills as an enclave of the super rich. And there are parts of Beverly Hills where you have these huge mansions, and you know, that sort of is what the image is. But 65% of the residents live in multifamily homes, do not live in a single family home. And over 50% of our residents are renters. So people, where I live, for example, near Olympic and Robertson, south of Olympic, I jokingly refer to as Baja Beverly Hills. So people have an image of Beverly Hills, and I don't think it's just everyone wanting to move there. People would move there before because of the schools. Sometimes they move there now because we are very focused on public safety. We've instituted a real-time watch center, and it just objectively is safer in Beverly Hills than it is in some surrounding areas. We have a 3-minute response time with our police and our fire. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about people looking to profiteer. And in many cases, I think you've got people building luxury condos and want to build towers to sell to people to have second homes. It's not for our residents. It's not for people who want to move in.
Is there some kind of city ordinance that you can't build tall buildings up to a certain height?
Well, we used to have that, and the state is changing that, and it's changing the physical look of our city, and that's also changing many other things. And communities are unique. There shouldn't be one size fits all. We feel that we were a low-rise community. We're called the Garden City, and we don't have enough green space, quite frankly. And, you know, this is about lobbyists who have a lot of influence in Sacramento, and Sacramento politicians who care more about the lobbyists than they do about their own constituents.
When I go to Beverly Hills, I see that there are quite a few buildings that have retained its natural charm from Romanesque and Beaux Arts styles. What other programs are available to maintain the city's look and the arts and cultures as well?
So when I got on the council, we did not have historic preservation. Other cities do. There's the LA Conservancy. We had nothing to protect any of the buildings. And so one of the things that it was, you know, and I'm proud of, but one of the things that I wanted to do was to institute a cultural heritage commission and also a historic preservation law. And after a few years, including some pushback, we were able to do it. And we have a cultural heritage commission. We have over 40 properties that have been designated commercial buildings, single-family homes, and although the law got weakened in a way that I think needs to be fixed, we have it, and I'm hoping that we can strengthen it, and that's exactly to do what you're talking about, is to maintain buildings of architectural significance that contribute to the overall environment and the feeling about what makes Beverly Hills special. And one of the things that makes our community special is the variety of single-family homes, and some of them are done by master architects like Paul Williams, for example, like Wallace Neff and John Lautner. And so we haven't done. It's funny. Before I got on the council, the joke was in historic preservation circles that preservation Beverly Hills style is taking a picture of a building before you tear it down. That's changed, and I'm proud to say, as said, that our Cultural Heritage Commission continues to do fine work. It's not just looking to preserve physical buildings, but memories. We have something called a Golden Shield program, where sort of like the blue shields in London, where it says where there are historical events or what happened. Now, we don't have the same history as London. Our city is, you know, only, it was founded, it's 111 years old as opposed to London, but we really do need to value the history that we have. I've always felt that. You also ask about arts and culture, and that's another thing that I've been trying to promote from the very beginning. When I was mayor, we did, I mean, this, don't necessarily call it art, but it's music. We did a series of sing-along with the mayors, where everyone could come and sing along. And that's something that I learned how powerful that is in Sweden. In Sweden in the summer, all sorts of, the most popular TV show, but they have it in other small cities, is sing-along. So they'll get a bunch of people together at Skansen, which is the biggest one. It's thousands of people, and then you'll have music, and everyone will sing along. And when people sing together, it's funny. They're not fighting. They're not, that builds a sense of community. But it's also music. And so we did a series of sing-alongs with the mayors. Also, we had a fine arts commission, and the purpose of the fine arts commission was simply to purchase fine arts, mainly sculptures, for display in our city's collection, in our gardens, and we and our parks. And we do have a wonderful collection. We've got a Kusama that's actually coming back. We've got other artists, Tom Friedman, and so on. But I felt that arts and culture is more than just buying art or statues. And so I advocated for broadening the scope of the Fine Arts Commission to include other forms of art that we should be promoting in our city: dance and music and photography and cinema. And so we actually changed or broadened the scope of the Fine Arts Commission to become the Arts and Culture Commission. We've got Festival Beverly Hills and other things. We have a wonderful venue called Greystone Mansion, where the city council spent a couple $1 million to renovate an old theater, which is a small one, where it opened right before COVID, but it opened with a reading of the Shakespeare play. That's something that we should be continuing to doing in addition to screenings and series. We've had that, and that needs to continue. So we also, growing up, across from City Hall, there was a post office, a beautiful post office, but that's what it was. And when the U.S. government decommissioned it, the city, this was way before I was on the council, had the foresight to purchase it. They were able to purchase it with the help of the federal government. And it's now the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts. So we have in the middle of town a wonderful performing arts center that we never had before, that also is a central hub for all kinds of arts and culture events in our city. And it's literally across from City Hall, and it's a gem. So these are things that we need to continue working on. One thing we don't have in the city is an art museum. I wish we did. But LVMH, the luxury group, is now going to build a retail complex that includes 40,000 square feet of exhibition space. I think they're going to do the groundbreaking next year. It was designed by Frank Gehry, who just passed away, and maybe one of his last major projects. And I'm really hoping that LVMH, which has one of the world's greatest art collections, they have a wonderful museum in France, but they have a lot more art than they have wall space. I'm hoping they're going to have some wonderful exhibitions in Beverly Hills, in the center of town, and that would be something that would be a dream come true.
I visited Beverly Hills recently, and I saw that there are quite a few art galleries. Would you say Beverly Hills is an incubator for local artists, given that there's a proliferation of art making in the city?
So we do have a lot of galleries, that's true. We also have twice a year the arts show. That's more, I would say, that's maybe not as much fine. That's maybe folk art or pop art. It includes ceramics and that sort of thing. Of course, it's artistic and it's important. For some of the fine artists that you're talking about, I'd like to think Beverly Hills is an incubator, but it may be that certainly we have the galleries. We probably don't have enough space for artists to have their studios there. But we do have one of the preeminent artists of the 20th and 21st century, Ed Ruscha, is a Beverly Hills resident. And my feeling is that, I've said this, that we should do something to honor him as one of our native sons, if you will, and to honor his work and his life.
You mentioned sing-alongs earlier. Are we going to see more sing-alongs in the city of Beverly Hills?
I think that was something that I did. Each time someone is a mayor, they have their own kind of events that they do. I don't see any of the other council members, the ones who are going to become mayor, doing sing-alongs. I don't know if they can or want to. It was something, as said, that I felt was a fresh idea brought from Sweden, and we were able to do different themed sing-alongs, and we got great turnouts, and it was a lot of fun. And I would love to see more sing-alongs, maybe with other groups. I'm not sure that we're going to see it, though, directly with the city council. I think that was something unique that maybe I brought to the table.
I see the melding of cultures in your outfits. Today, you're wearing Jollibee, of course, which is kind of like the flagship of Filipino fast food. In terms of Filipino and Jewish relations, what do you see happening in the future?
Well, I'm also wearing a kippah. My yarmulke is the Filipino flag. And I hope there will be a close relationship between the Filipinos and the Jewish people. I note that there are not a lot of Jewish people in the Philippines, and I know it's an overwhelmingly Catholic country. I was there years ago, maybe 10 plus years ago. It happened to be Hanukkah. There is actually a small Jewish community, there was at the time, in Makati, and I went there for a Hanukkah celebration. But I would love to see more common events and more joint celebrations, certainly here where we have a coming together of various communities. I'd love to see more support, and I think you have it, of the Philippines for Israel, which is under attack because of a vast variety of propaganda, false narratives, and blood libels. And I think the Philippines has been generally supportive. Personally, though, it's because my fiance is from the Philippines, and so I've naturally taken an interest in the Philippines, have tried to learn about the culture, have tried to learn a little bit of Filipino language, Tagalog, and certainly Filipino dishes. And so for me, combining those cultures feels that it's a natural thing to do, and certainly in this melting pot or salad bowl of Los Angeles and the Los Angeles area.
Going back to your blog, when you came from Sweden and you were blogging, what was the transition from blogging to city governance? What was the defining moment that made you realize that maybe it is something that you wanted to do?
Well, as said, a friend encouraged me. I didn't necessarily pull any punches. I said what I thought. I was honest. I tried to be fair, sometimes satirical. One of the old school columnists in Beverly Hills liked to describe me as a Civic. But I felt, to me, that was, hey, try running. And so I guess the question is when I actually won, how was the tradition from blogging to actually setting policy? And I'm happy to say that, 16, 17 years later, I still think I stick to my guns. I've often been the lone vote when it's been a 1-4 vote, and not just for the purpose of being contrarian, but I always try to give my reasons why I vote the way I do, and to be fair about it. And so you do need to try and get to 3 votes. We're a 5-member council to achieve anything, and sometimes you have to understand that it's going to take a while. I'm not sure where maybe it's Chinese, that persistence overcomes resistance, and sometimes that is the case. You just have to stick with it. The idea of doing a cultural heritage commission and having historical preservation in a city, whereas said the joke was preservation Beverly Hills style, taking a picture of a building before you tore it down. That took several years to finally actually get enough votes so that we were able to do it. And now 10 plus years later, we have a historic preservation ordinance. We have a cultural heritage commission. We have 40 plus properties that are on the list. So I would say that because it's local government, I wasn't really, unfortunately, politics in America so much about money these days. And I was able to get elected without spending a huge amount of money. There wasn't the same pressure that you have to dial for dollars the way politicians do, and that the moneyed interests really are calling the shots. I think I went into it eyes wide open, and I wasn't surprised one way or the other. And I hope that I've been able to achieve a few good things.
Moving from being a film executive in film production to being a public official and into public service, would you say that you have found your life's mission?
So I wasn't in film production, I was in film distribution. And that's different, that's important. It's once the movies are made, the film distributors are the ones who work with exhibitors to get them in the theaters, they market the movies and all of that. And I still love the film industry. I feel very connected. A lot of my family are there too. I would say to an extent, yes, that, is this what I was meant to do? I think it's one of many things I feel that I was meant to do. I think I was also meant to do Israel advocacy, to stand up for my people now in a time where we're under attack from theocratic fascists and moneyed interests from across the globe who are engaging in revisionism and the worst kind of anti-Jewish racism. So I feel, I can't say that I feel that I have one mission in life. I feel obviously there are a number of them, and certainly I feel that these are things that I was meant to do. But hey, I was also maybe meant to. I wouldn't have thought about it if you asked me 10 years ago or in high school or at any time, but maybe meant to also try and strengthen relations between the Filipino and the Jewish community and the American community.
What are you currently working on as a city council member?
Well, it's an ongoing work. As said, one of our big focuses is always public safety. We have something called a real-time watch center, which where we have thousands of cameras throughout the city, and we're now trying to use AI to help us not only solve crimes, which the cameras in the real-time watch center do, but to hopefully prevent crimes. And our real-time watch center has been a big success. I have been talking about for years, 10 years ago probably, maybe 8, 9 years ago, about autonomous vehicles as a form of public transportation. And at the time, no one would have thought it's possible. Well, if you go to Beverly Hills or other parts of LA, you'll see Waymo all the time. So the technology is almost ready for prime time. I would love to see us use that technology, not only to save lives, because we know that most of the 30,000 plus traffic deaths are caused by human error in the United States, but also to open up opportunities for us to, instead of doing something that planners call transit-oriented development, called autonomous-oriented development. So to use that technology to help inform the way that we live and the way that we get from place to place. And as said, my vision at the time was that we can use autonomous technology and autonomous vehicles to be an important part of public transportation. And I still think that would be of interest. So there are a lot of things that continue to motivate me. You talk about arts and culture. I'm always looking to see where we can expand that and expand Beverly Hills' role there. And, keeping very busy doing a lot of other things. I think the thing is that what can we do to improve the lives of our residents? And there are always things that we can do.
If someone were to follow your path of public service, what will your advice be for them?
Stay true to yourself. I mean, try and maintain an internal integrity that you're able to speak to people, but you don't just tell them what they want to hear. You have to be respectful to other people, but I think people, and I've gotten this to an extent, that even if people, sometimes they'll come up to me and say, I don't always agree with you, but you stick to your guns and you explain it. And I think that's really important, is to have a kind of internal integrity, but also be willing to say if you've got it wrong. That happens sometimes too, or to have a position that changes for a good reason, not for a political reason, but for a good reason. And, I've got 2 boys, and I would love for them to be involved in public service. They'll choose their own way. But I really think that's what they call it. Here they call it elected office. In Sweden, it's called public service. And I don't think of myself as a politician. I think of myself as a public servant, as an elected official who's lucky enough to have been representing my community for all these years.
And if people were to raise some issues with the city council, where can they send a letter or call them?
Well, I mean, my email address at City Hall is jmirisch, JMIRISCH, at beverlyhills.org. It's very easy to get a hold of me. People can connect with me through City Hall, and I'm happy to talk to our residents about their concerns and issues. And one of the things that I am also proud about was I started something when I was mayor the first time called the Sunshine Task Force, which had the goal of making city local government more transparent. You always hear the old expression, you can't fight City Hall, and my feeling was you shouldn't have to. City Hall should be on your side. And so the Sunshine Task Force aimed to create more transparency, more public participation, But also, there are paid lobbyists who are influencing policy to make that more transparent about who is coming to City Hall, talking with staff, speaking before the council, who is being paid by whom to try and achieve some policy goals or some laws. That's really important because my feeling is that we're working for the residents of Beverly Hills, and sometimes the interests of private parties and corporations and businesses may align. But really, I look at it as my job is to represent the interests of the people of Beverly Hills, my neighbors and friends.
Thank you so much for being with us today, John. For everyone who's out there, thank you for watching another episode of Chat with Mick, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Tang and Java. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out.
I love Jollibee. In fact, as you can see, I'm wearing a Jollibee sweater. I even wrote a holiday song about Jollibee called Have a Holly Jollibee Christmas and Hanukkah. And so it's something maybe you can have a look at.
That is so cool. And maybe one day we'll get to have a sing-along and sing that song.
That's right. I'd be happy to. I actually have been to several Filipino events where I have done some karaoke. I know that's a tradition. And I've done it actually in Tagalog. I sang a song by VST and Co. called Rock Baby Rock. And did that in Tagalog. And also did a song by the great Fred Pinocchio called Manet, about peanuts.
Oh, okay. Do you want to sing the Jollibee song?
I can sing the first verse, and then it's we did actually a video. You maybe want to link to it. Have a holly Jollibee Christmas. It's the best time of the year. I don't know if there'll be snow, but chicken joy is here. Have a holly Jollibee Christmas, and when you walk down the street, say hello to friends you know, but don't forget to eat. Oh boy, the chicken joy, so good you can't stop. Keep eating Hainako, it's so masarap. Have a holly Jollibee Christmas, and in case you didn't hear, oh, by golly, have a holly Jollibee Christmas this year.